Hey coin collectors, it's DC on the Big D, and this is the 1941 Mercury dime, and we have three of them, and you can go ahead and say wow right now because this is just a really cool dime. This is the god Mercury with the winged head facing to the left. It says Liberty at the top, Liberty. You see some of the R and some of the E and the R are in kind of the hair or the cap on the head. You see it says, "In God we trust," under the chin here. Back here we have a over a W. So the A over the W is, of course, the designer's or engraver's initials, and that's for Adolf A. Weinman. So there's a W and an A there. And then down here at the bottom, you see it says 1941. I have three of them here, and usually if I have three, you're going to say, well, he's got three because he's got one for each one of the mints. The Philadelphia, the Denver, and the San Francisco. So a P, a D, and an S. Or in the case of a dime, just a D and an S, because the P won't have any letter on it. But when we look here, we don't see any. Down here, we don't see any of the. Now here's a modern dime. There's the D right there, right above the date. It's Roosevelt facing to the left. And of course, the Roosevelt dimes didn't start until 1946. This is a 50th anniversary dime right here. And of course, Roosevelt dimes on the back had the torch and this. We'll see what's on the back here, but we also will see where the mint mark is, because the mint mark is not on the front of the Mercury dime. It is on the back. And there's the D for Denver. And then this one here in the middle, it's the Philadelphia, so there won't be a mint mark on it. And you'll look for it right there. And then finally, I'm guessing this is an S, because that's where we want to show all three of them. And there's the S right there. So a Philadelphia, no P, a D for Denver, and an S there for San Francisco. At the Philadelphia Mint in 1941, you have to remember that we thought a war was coming in 1941. We did not know that we were going to be in it for sure, but we were pretty sure. And you need to also remember that Pearl Harbor didn't occur until the end of 1941. So when these coins were made, we were gearing up towards a kind of a war production and war economy, but we were not in the war yet. Europe was fully engaged in the war. The Philippines and other parts of Asia were fully engaged in the war, but the United States had not joined yet when these dimes were made in 1941. But the Philadelphia Mint still, they were ramping up, so they made 175 million of these ones without the mint mark. The Denver Mint made 65 million, and the San Francisco Mint made 43 million, and that's the S over here. So between the three of them, there were 250 million made. Now, some people don't know that they actually did have proof sets back then. So they did make a proof set in 1941. In the 1941 proof set, they made 15,287 of them. They cost $1.89, and now they sell for about $900. So if you can find a 1941 proof set, grab it. What's special about these dimes other than the fact that they have the Mercury on the front? Well, one of the things, of course, that's special is that they're still made out of silver. And when we look at this, on the side, we see that it is pretty uniform. This is a 90% silver. Has 118 reeds going around the outside of it. And on the back, this is how you grade a Mercury dime on the back. You look at the bands. Now, it's not the same bands that you see on the Roosevelt dime. Now, in the Roosevelt dime, we know that there's bands at the top. There's two there, and there's two down here, and then there's this bottom little cup. On the Mercury dime, there's two bands here, and two bands here. And if you get them all together, and you can see both bands, that would be an FSB. And you can actually see the split between the two, so you know there were two bands there until it got worn out. Split between the two there. And then down here we can kind of see the split, but we see that this is not going to be the FSB or full bands version. There are other things we can look at, though, to see if this coin is worth any money. And this is the S. And on the back of the S, they have a double die reverse. And so what we can do is we can pump up the letters way, way up and go around and see if we see any evidence of a double die reverse. And we really don't, do we? We should note that these are stars on the back. See, there's a star here and a star here. When we look at the modern dime, it's a dot. So sometimes you hear me say, well, these are dots, not stars. And that's because in the Mercury dime, they are stars. We also see that it has this called the fasces, which is this kind of weapon with a olive tree almost in the background. You can actually see some of the olives on it. E pluribus unum, it says here. In United States of America at the top, 1 dime here. Nowhere, of course, on these does it say 10 cents. So no double die on the 1941 S, but we can also look at the 1941 Philly. On the Philly, there is a double die on the front. So when we look at the Philadelphia one, we can look, and this is so worn, you might not even be able to see it, but we're not seeing anything that even looks close to a double die on these. So on the Philly, there's a double die on the front, and on the Denver. So here's the Denver. We'll flip that one over. There was a double die on the front also, and we'll look way deep into that. And it's so worn, but we're not going to see any double die here. So look for these coins. They're worth a couple bucks each. They're probably worth $4 to $5. If you could get one for $2 or $3, get them. If you can get in any kind of good condition, you start going up to $5, $10, $15 by the time you get to the almost uncirculated. If you get to a mint state 60, you may be talking between $20 and $60 for these. And if you can get up to a mint state 65 with the full bands, you're talking about between $40 and $100. All right, that's all we have today from DC Coin World. From Big D Coins DC on Big D Coins. Come and watch both of our channels, the DC Coin World and the Big D Coin channel, and leave any comments you might have in Big D's comments section.